he's like, no, I'm good. I'm a man of God. God's going to help me. And then eventually he drowns and he comes up to heaven and says, hey, God, like, why didn't you help me? Why did I die? And God is like, I send a rowboat and a motorboat and a fucking helicopter. What more do you want? And to me, that's how life works, right? God or the universe or life or whatever you call it is always trying to send us exactly what we need. It's trying to give us exactly what we need. And then there's that part of us that has all of the fucking stories about how it's too scary, it's too risky, or we're not worth it, or it's not the right form. We want it this way and not that way, or, like all of that shit, right? We come up with all these reasons why we can't have or why it's wrong. Like it's right there. And I think that's the message, that everything you want is right fucking there. But there's always a surplus of everything that we really need and desire. It exists right there, whether it's love or money or time or support, help, like whatever it is, it's there. Like there are people right now who are looking to give you exactly what you most want. So whatever it is that you desire, God wants the same for you. So you have to open up your receiving channels, your ability, your willingness to receive, and trust that it's much simpler than you think it is, right? It's much simpler than you think it is. And this has been true for me every single time. What's up, everybody? What's up? What's up? What's up? What's up? So happy Thursday, everybody. We're back as usual. Unfiltered live every Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern. I'll share like something that's going on for me right now in Sombrero land. It's been a challenge finding good engineers. It's generally hard. It's something that everybody talks about. It's really hard to find good engineers. And we've been trying to do it on our own since last summer, and it's been really sluggish. It's been really slow coming up with those people. And then finally I was just like, okay, let me just hire a recruiting company. So asked around and found the top recruiting firm for technical companies and hired them, and they've just been on the ball. Like within a day, they'd sent us a bunch of really solid resumes. I've interviewed several of the candidates, and they're mostly really good, like really good. And one of them we've just made a verbal commitment to hire, so that's pretty cool. And but it's scary. It's super scary. Not having good engineers is scary. That's amazing. In fact, sidebar. Some years ago, I was really scared of hiring good engineers. And the reason why I was struggling. So whenever I'm struggling with something in business, I always go, or in life in general, actually, I always go inside and outside. So what is the inner block to this, to me achieving this? And then what is the outer system that I need to create in order to get this result? And at that time, I realized that I am scared of hiring really good engineers, because being a good engineer was how I got love at home. And so I was afraid unconsciously that if I hired a really good engineer, my dad was going to love him more than me. And so I didn't want anyone to outshine me in the engineering department. And so that was a really good one to get over, and that helped me. And so that kind of opened the door to finding my first really, really good engineering hire. Now I've overcome that, but then hiring a recruiter it's so we're finding engineers that are asking like $200,000, $250,000. Like these are like real serious numbers, right? Like it's a lot of money to pay to hire someone but that's what a really good engineer costs, especially if they're going to be US based. But then a recruiter is going to want 25% of that upfront. So if you're hiring someone at $250K, that's a $62,500, chunk change, chunk of change right up front. So those are some pretty serious numbers, right? Like it's not chump change to go do that. And so It's definitely been something for me that I have had to kind of like really take a deep breath on. And then there's like, how do we fund that? Because we don't have that, like we're making money obviously, but we don't have that much cash to just float around, just like hire a person like that and pay, $62,000 to a recruiter per hire, right? But I found this company called Founder Path that will lend me money to do that. That will lend not me, but the company money to do something like that. And so what I realized is that it's like, I want better engineers. Like, well, here's a great engineer. Oh, great. But how am I going to pay for it? Well, here's money. Oh, great. And it's like, here's the engineer, here's the money, like, go do it. Right. And so the point here is, have you felt that place in you? Because like inside of me, it's that like, it's scary to go, loan, like borrow that kind of money and also pay that kind of money to someone, right? Like it's a scary move to like really go and expand in that way. It really is, for me anyway. And it's kind of like there's that part of me that wants to hold on and kind of contract and tense up and be like, I can't afford it. No, let's not do it. And like just, oh no, scared. And then there's the part that's like, you wanted an engineer, here's the engineer. You wanted the money, here's the money. Like, go fucking do it. Like, just trust in life, trust in the universe, trust in, like, it reminds me of that story with the guy who's stuck on top of his house after a flood, right? The city's been flooded and all the houses are flooded, and he's sitting on top of his house. And he's a believer, so he's praying to God for help. And then some guy comes along in a rowboat and he says like, no, I don't need help because I've got God. I'm praying to God. And then he's like, all right. And then another guy comes by in a motorboat, and the guy on the top of the house is like, no, I don't need help. I'm good. I'm praying. I got God. He's gonna help me. And then later, like the water keeps rising, and then a helicopter comes by and lowers a rope down to him, a ladder or something, so he can climb up. And he's like, no, I'm good. I'm a man of God. God's gonna help me. And then eventually he drowns, and he comes up to heaven and says, hey God, like, why didn't you help me? Why did I die? And God is like, I send a rowboat and a motorboat and a fucking helicopter. What more do you want? And to me, that's how life works, right? The God or the universe or life or whatever you call it is always trying to send us exactly what we need. It's trying to give us exactly what we need. And then there's that part of us that has all of the fucking stories about how it's too scary, it's too risky, or we're not worth it, or it's not the right form. We want it this way and not that way, or did I say unworthy? We're like all of that shit, right? We come up with all these reasons why we can't have, or why it's wrong, why we're not, like, we can't, like, it's right there. And I think that's the message, is that everything you want is right fucking there. Like, these engineers that I'm talking to now are my dream engineers. I want to work with them. They want to work with me. I'm their dream boss. It's like, what the fuck? Let's go. And then someone else is going to pay for it. Fantastic. Like, let's rock and roll and build some cool shit together. Right. But life is like, there's always a surplus of everything that we really need and desire. It exists right there, whether it's love or money or time or support, help, like whatever it is, it's there. Like, there are people right now who are looking to give you exactly what you most want, right? There are people out there. If you are someone who, like, we're all in business, right? In business, our job is to solve problems for other people. There are thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of people out there right now who has the exact problem that you can solve, and just like looking for, hoping for, wishing for someone to take their money and make this problem go away. Millions of people who are just like, take my fucking money if you'll solve this problem for me. They exist they're out there. We just need to get out of our own way and then figure out how we get in front of those people. But they're 100% there. So whatever it is that you desire, God wants the same for you. So you have to open up your, receiving channels, your ability, your willingness to receive, and trust that it's much simpler than you think it is, right? It's much simpler than you think it is. And this has been true for me every single time. I was on a call this morning as well. I was just on a call with one of the engineers, a second engineer who's like, I'm like, dude, sounds great. I love you. But I was on another call this morning with a longtime friend is maybe too strong a word, acquaintance, but of someone I've known in the marketing world that I've known for 12 years now. He was advising me on, marketing for Simplero. And he was just like, he helped me really clarify my thinking around this and just broke it down very, very simply for me. It's like, it's sometimes it's really hard for us to, like, what is my friend John says, you can't read the label from inside the bottle. But sitting down with him this morning was just like, oh yes, this is what we need to be doing. This is the thing that we need to be doing right now. It's like, because Beth and I were trying to figure out, like, we've met every week, every day this week. She's like, okay, let's figure out what we need to do to crack the marketing. And we kind of been flailing around a little bit because neither of us are really, like, it's not our kind of day to day, or like it's like, okay, is that like label from the inside of the bottle? We're like, hey, what is it that we need to make happen here? What is it we need to do? But talking to him was just like, oh, right, this is the path. And these people are out there that will give you exactly what you need, give you that exact clarity, that exact roadmap. Right? You just have to be out, like, open to meeting them, open to receiving them, and then open to signing up to get their thing. There's tons of people who hit me up on Twitter or email or something and is like, hello, sir, can I, will you give me a job, right? Or hello, sir, will you answer this for me? I'm like, bro, that's not how that works, right? It's just not. I spend 8 hours in meetings on a day. I've worked like 12, 13-hour days these days. Like, I'm not gonna like sit down and answer your thing on Twitter. Like that, and sometimes I will, right? But you, like, don't expect that. But if you're like, okay, I'm gonna invest in this person's program and sit down and get some value here, and like, it's like people can sort out your stuff so easily, so quickly, if you want to have it sorted out, if that makes sense, if you're open to it. And I think that's where I get in my own way, and where I see a lot of other people get in their own way. It's like, you start arguing for your problems, you start arguing for where you're stuck. That's my thought on that. Yes. Complete thought.
That's amazing. I mean, I even had an unlock personally, just from what you were saying, about everything you want is right there. So this is fire.
Talk to me about that. What happened? What did you see?
Okay, so we've had some transition. We kind of went from being physical to being strictly online for our church, and that I've had a guilt around that, a shame, because it seems like a regression, and it's kind of like, okay, like, how can we invite more people onto what we're doing if there's this track record that says, for all intents and purposes, you messed up, or you didn't manage well, or you had a negative trend. And it's kind of like the shame of bringing someone onto that, or again, people say, believe in what we're doing and come on board. And then when you were saying how there are people who want what you offer and looking for what you have, who have the problem that you solve, you just need to get in front of them. That really kind of helps me just say, you know what, that's what I think about myself, or just kind of like the shame that I had on that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that was a real unlock for me.
They're out there, and the people who will help you gonna get past your own shit too, right? Because like that's another thing that I see a lot of people struggle with, is like this is what happens. We complicate our lives when we're confused. We're confused about what needs to happen, what we need to do. We're confused about what we really want. We're confused about, with things like, unworthiness or quality, or is my stuff good enough? Am I enough? Like, what do I like? I need to impress people. All these things are confusions that just complicate things for us. Victim creates massive complications. And so the way I've always thought of it is, we have our core life essence, which arises from our scrotum, right? Like it arises from that, like the cradle of life, literally, in our bodies, and kind of like runs up through our bodies and then takes outward creative expressive form. But then all these garbage beliefs are injected into the system. All these feelings that are buried alive are just thrown on top of it, and all of a sudden we're not as clear as as a baby. We came out and we're just like super clear, right? Not super evolved, not super cognitively aware and all that stuff, but super clear. Like, I want food, wah, right? I want comfort, wah. So all of those beliefs kind of add on top, and then it just gets more complicated. And then from there, the job is to remove all of those layers so that we can have that clarity that other people can see and feel and connect with. And the people that will help you get that clarity, they exist too out there, and they're just trying to help you. Some of them are just like strangers on the bus or on the subway doing something that triggers you. Some of them are relations, friends, family members. Some of them can be mentors or coaches or spiritual teachers or whatever. But they're all there, and they're all trying to make it to help you do that, if you will let them in.
That kind of leads into something that you also said recently that I thought was pretty cool, about like just the money mindset and kind of like wealth attraction stuff, like how our perspective even limits us when it comes to, how we do our offers, how we set up our business, what we expect, what we even accept from clients and customers. Like, what are your thoughts on really kind of, sharpening that process within ourselves?
I'm a fan. I mean, money is another one of those areas that a lot of us are very confused about, right? We have a lot of beliefs about it. I always like to make the thought experiment. So I met a guy, he's a photographer, who had traveled the world for 3 years without himself dealing with money at all. And so the way he did it was he would travel. So he stayed with me for a couple days and took photos for me. And then in exchange for, you could sleep in my house and then on an air mattress. And I think I bought him some piece of gear that he needed. And then, so someone would buy him a flight to someplace or a piece of gear or something, but he didn't, like, anything that he needed. He didn't have money. He didn't take money for what he did, and he didn't pay anyone any money directly. It was all kind of indirect. So of course, like, money is still a factor, right? Somebody has to get paid for that flight ticket. Somebody has to get paid for pay rent, et cetera, but he didn't touch it. And it made me think about all of this money stuff is just, especially at this point, it's just numbers in a computer somewhere that we can't see or touch. And then we have cash, but cash are just pieces of paper or, pieces of metal, right? It's like, it's not a thing. It's just like, I mean, it is a thing, but it's just like whatever we've decided that something's worth. But we get so super hung up on, on money and what it all means. And I can't afford. I don't know if there's a connection, but if you guys remember in the beginning of the year in January, we had a couple of these calls where I talked about, cash flow scare that it looked like we were going to be negative $125,000. And then a few days later, it looked like it was going to be negative $165,000. By now, right, we're now in mid-March. By sort of mid to late March, we're going to be negative 165,000. I'm happy to report we're nowhere near that. We're positive. We're not going to hit negative at all. How the fuck did that happen? Right? It's like, it's a variety of things like revenue. We did some sales. We did some good things. We some costs that didn't materialize, like things. Projections for these things are always a little funky, right? Things are up and down. I honestly don't know exactly what made the difference. It wasn't one thing. It was many things, but I'm happy that it turned out this way. I'm also happy that it happened because I learned so much from going through that experience, including this whole funding thing that's available to us that allows us to go hire some really killer fucking engineers so we can do some really amazing shit, amazing shit with the product, which I'm super pumped about. But one of the things that I did was, even at the lowest point right in the beginning of January, when I got those numbers that looked super fucking scary, I didn't contract. I didn't go into fear. I was definitely shook. I mean, Bryson, you saw me, right? I was definitely impacted, but I didn't go into like panic control, right? Like we gotta like everything. I didn't contract over it. I rolled with it. And then I've been listening to some old Dan Kennedy thing where he was talking about the importance of giving. And like, he's like, give, even when you think you can't afford it. And he's like, just try it for 30 days and just keep giving for 30 days. And like, one of the simple things that you can do to give is just give, tip whenever you buy something. And I'd go to this hotel right by my house every morning in that period. And I was there this morning as well. And then for a $5 cup of tea, I would tip them $20, right? And I was just like, even though I'm super scared and it looks like we're going to be negative $165,000, I'm still going to do this. Because, like $20 is not going to make the fucking difference, right? And B, yeah, let's do this, right? Let's implement this, like, and see how it works. I don't know. It seemed to work out. Like, was that the reason why? I don't know, but here we are, and things are looking pretty damn good. So maybe it had an impact. I don't know. But I think the whole, like, one of the things that it does is it takes that like scarcity is a mindset that we buy into. And when you're giving, that kind of negates some of that scarcity mindset. Like, you can't, like, yes, here, it just feels good to give, and you're giving to another person, but really you're giving to yourself. And there's the transaction where, like, this number in my account gets decreased, and this number in their account somewhere gets increased, and sure, something happens, and I guess the government takes half, but there's like that mechanical layer of it. But on an energetic layer, I'm giving to them, and it feels good to me, right? That energy lands right back on me and impacts me. And the energy that we put out really is what we get back. So the more that we can just be comfortable in, like, even though it doesn't look this way right now, the world is abundant. Abundance is reality, and it's right there, the better. And I was reminded too of, because like for me, this whole thing of taking on funding, taking on debt is scary, because I've never done that. I've always prided myself on, like, I pay my bills on time. I remember when I started to learn about building credit in the US, it's not something that we do in my country, but that where you have to borrow money that you don't need and then pay it back in order to prove that you can handle money. Like, that seems weird. Like, I've always paid all my bills on time. No credit for that? Nope. You don't get any credit for that. It's not how that works. You have to borrow money you don't need, pay interest on it. And then, or maybe not, you don't have to. You can do it. Like, we did like a $300 secured credit card and like bought coffee. Like, I don't drink coffee, bought a tea on it. And it's like, It felt super stupid, but you do that, buy a cup of tea on the stupid card and pay those like $6 or 26 with tip back consistently over a while, and then like credit score goes up and credit gets increased. So like, fine, if that's the game we have to play. But it took me a while to learn it. So taking on this debt for me is scary because I've never done that before. I've always prided myself on like not owing anybody anything. And but then it's like, why not? And then I think about I was reminded of Donald Trump, who famously, there's a story of Donald Trump walking with his wife or something past a homeless person on the street, saying, that guy, the homeless guy right there, has a net worth that's $960 million higher than mine right now, because he was almost $1 billion in debt, right, underwater. And it was just like, $1 billion is a lot of money. Like, it's like, but he was fine. He was still there, still walking, still, being himself. Like, it's just numbers and it's just a mental construct somewhere. And it only has the impact that we really let it. So I was reminded of him, and then also Elon Musk, who, is definitely using both debt and equity and money and all kinds of other money to do what he's doing. And he's been on the brink of bankruptcy many times with Tesla or SpaceX, and I'm sure like, and the whole Twitter situation too, right? Where I think that really stretched his finances when the Tesla stock started tanking, and now he's getting sued by the government, all this stuff. So I'm like me borrowing like, a couple $100,000 or maybe a couple million is like peanuts, right? It's not that big of a deal. Get over it. Like, just jump in. And again, God is right there with a rowboat and a motorboat and a helicopter. So, I mean, let's fucking go. Worst case, I can't pay it back, and we'll refinance. I'll take a new loan, or I'll sell some equity to make it work, or whatever. Like, we'll figure it out. But I trust that we'll be able to make it rain, and it'll just be the best fucking investment that we've ever done. And then once I've done it once, it's like, let's go, let's do it again, right? Next time we can borrow maybe 5 million or 10 million, and we can just keep rolling, and we can keep like investing what's needed for growth and retain all the fucking equity, right? That's pretty fucking smart. Because normally, like a lot of startups, they give away 20% equity for, say, maybe $1 million or something like that, right? That's really damning. So if you end up building a company that's worth, say 50 million or something, that's a lot of 20%. That's, what is that? That's 10 million right there that you paid for 1 million, right? It's a lot of money. So yeah, I'm excited about this. I think it's a really, really, really smart strategy. And I'm very excited that I get to do that.
Let me ask you this question, man. I think this is very powerful. Do you feel that this instance that you had with the incorrect projections was the pathway for your expedited, accelerated growth?
Oh, totally. 1,000%. Yeah. I don't think any of this would have happened had that not happened, right? I would have been stuck. So this whole thing got me to peel off so many layers of fear and a victim, right? A victim. And it's, so when I was in Copenhagen a couple of weeks ago, I told my body therapist there, like, this victim thing just really like unlock really happened for me. Go work on that. And they worked on victim through my body, which are like, it's right here on the love handles, basically, like almost like not quite, but like in the side of the belly. That's where the victim, or at least part of the victim, I don't know too much about these things, but that's where that is kind of anchored in the body. So he really worked on that. And it was a lot of like, a lot of crying, a lot of emotional stuff. And it feels like that still, I'm kind of still peeling those layers off that victim. And it's funny now, like, again, with like the ways that I've been trying to go about, like, I've been working really hard at not finding the engineers I wanted. Right? Think about that. Like, those engineers that I want are out there. They're looking for me because I'm a fucking great boss, right? For the right person, I'm an amazing boss. They were desperate for me because a lot of them are in shitty jobs with shitty leadership. One of the guys I'm talking to is like, yeah, it was great, but then I got another boss and then another boss, and all my colleagues left, and the new boss is kind of like an ad. Like it's like, you know, there are lots of miserable jobs out there, and so I'm a savior for this person, and they're out there all the time, but I was just busy being a victim about it and being like, it's hard and again, like, you know. So and that was that wrong financial projection, not wrong, but that financial projection and that whole, you know, cash flow scare was the catalyst for all of this, which just reinforces the whole point of that. What is it Sean Stevenson famously said, and I think it's been said throughout times, but that everything happens for me, not to me, right? So whatever it is, it's for me, not to me. It's for my growth. It's for my evolution. And yeah, if we can just take everything with that mindset, can't go wrong. Yeah, it's funny how it can be so hard sometimes to see the real value of what we're doing. It really is that you can't read the label from inside the bottle, and we often don't see it, and then we have judgment on it. I know for me, a lot of it too is some of my greatest strengths when it comes to all of this inner work, like all of it came from me suffering and being in pain and feeling wrong and all that stuff, right? So it's like there's kind of that, some of that wrapped up in it, like, oh, I'm really good at this, but it's only because I was so broken. It was only because I was so wrong. And then it's like kind of devalues. It's like, no, like, yes, maybe, but most people are broken, and like it's given me some really, really powerful tools in the tool chest here.
Why do you feel it takes so much for us to get to these insights and also to lose them? Because I mean, you're pretty evolved in your thought process and developed, and this is not a negative thing, but it's just like, okay, we still have to keep unraveling. Why do you feel it is? Why isn't it like, I know these truths and I'm done with this forever?
Yeah, right. Because the unconscious mind is just like so powerful compared to the conscious mind. Plus, I don't know if how other people are, but like my brain is very, very kind of squirrely, right? Like I'll sometimes be like, I'll have these like big realization, and then I'll talk to Deanna, and she's like, yes, we went through that exact same thing 6 months ago. I was like, oh yeah, you're right. I just fucking forgot again. Right. So it's like, it'll come full circle. But never back to the exact right spot. But I think there's definitely like, there tends to be some like pendulum swings, or some like you kind of go in circles, and then every time there's a new growth stage, you tend to revisit the same thing again, but it's a bit different every time, but it's going to be some of the same patterns, some of the same things every time. Like for me, it's that like kind of fighting with the divine, with God, like over who's in charge. That's definitely one of my like patterns that comes up every time, right? And I know that. Or feeling unworthy, right? That's another one that comes up every time. So it's good to know what those are, and now you can look out for them. Especially you can tell people in your inner circle to look out for them, because you might not see them, but they will.
You think they ever go away, or is it just something forever that you're going to have to kind of, look up for?
Yeah, I think the whole, like, to me is like, why do you want them to go away? Right? It's part of what makes this fun, and I think part of the trick is not making them wrong, not making it, wrong that they are there. Like those mistakes, those like messes, that's what makes us interesting, right? That's what makes us human. That's what makes us lovable in a sense, right? Like there's when screenwriters write plays, every character has a flaw, or you can't relate to them, right? They have to have something negative, or we don't give a shit. So maybe they don't need to go away. Maybe they really are sort of more like the gift that keeps on giving. And it is also, so it's kind of a touchstone for evolving to the next step. It's also a really strong connection point with other people, right? We can mirror other people in that. We can guide and mentor other people in those same places. Also reminds me of the Indian story. I forget the details. I'm not much of a details guy with these things. Joseph Campbell talks about it in his very famous, if you guys haven't watched that good old PBS documentary, 6 Hours, where Joseph Campbell talks to whatever his face is on BBC. I forget what it is. No, PBS. But it's phenomenal. But in there, he talks about this Indian god. I'm going to butcher this, but basically the idea is that imagine that you got to choose your ideal dream. Like you're going to sleep at night, you're going to dream for, in the dream it's 72 years, and you get to imagine whatever the hell you want over the course of that dream. Right. So initially you're like, oh, I'm going to have like a castle and all the money and all the virgins and all the sex and all the like most amazing things. And then you do that for like 1,000 nights, and then it gets a little boring. And then you start to introduce a little bit of resistance, and then you introduce more and more challenge and resistance and stuff, because it's just boring until you end up with the exact life that you're living today. Yeah, you put those there for a reason. We're not looking to make them go away. We're looking to, they happen for you as well. They didn't happen to you, right? Those imperfections or those blind spots are really, a gift.
How important then is it for us to have people around us? Like, is that the best way to do it, or are there other ways for us to get these truths about us, or to be able to see this stuff, or to know it?
It comes down to listening to ourselves. Like I think if as long as we're in the present and just out of our heads in the present, connected, they don't really play a role. But then we don't always live that way, and so then that's where they come up. Obviously, there are therapies and help and things that you can do to kind of work on these and get to know them better and peel off the layers and all that stuff. I'm partial to a lot of different things. One of them is that hand analysis from Richard Unger or Beth Davis that gives you kind of a very clear blueprint of what those blind spots are from their vantage point. And that's been super helpful for me to just know, like, these are the things that I do. If you guys want, we can talk some business marketing stuff as well. Bryson, you were talking about the MIFGE before.
Oh, yes. Like, yeah. What is that, and why is it different than a lead magnet? I mean, it just sounds like a lead magnet on steroids. Is that what you would define it as?
I mean, so the MIFGE is it's a Dan Kennedy concept that Russell Brunson kind of co-opted. So an abbreviation stands for the most incredible free gift ever. And the idea is there are two things that are really hard to sell generally. Number one is events. If you want to get someone to come to an event, they gotta, book flights. They gotta go to airports and fly fucking commercial. They gotta, book a hotel and stay in a hotel, and they gotta figure out, like, they can't, it's hard to keep your gym schedule and your diet schedule. You're gonna, have time away from your family and your kids or whatever. And so events are hard. The second hardest thing to sell is a subscription. Right. We at Simplera, we sell a subscription. Selling a normal quote unquote offer, right? Like a coaching offer or something that's not a subscription is a lot easier to sell. It's like, all right, I'll buy this thing. Like, subscriptions are harder. So the idea of the MIFGE is to basically bribe people into signing up for subscription. So like, hey, if you will just sign up for this free trial for 14 days or 30 days or whatever it is, you're not going to pay anything today, but I'm going to give you all of these things just to bribe you bribe you into signing up for this free trial. And you can cancel anytime in the first 80 days and you can keep this gift. But I just wanted to try it. And then the inertia kicks in, and so a lot of people are like, fuck it, I'll sign up for that. And then inertia kicks in, and then they stay subscribed, and then maybe they actually try the product and they really like it and they stay there, right? So that's the idea of the MIFGE. So it's really just to kind of get over that hump of like, people don't want like another subscription. And so the bigger zooming out from that is really kind of the conversation around offer. And it's really funny because this is like one of the most fundamental things, but I was just getting in my own way around it, about it. So with Simplero, we know that the offer converts pretty well. When people sign up for a trial, we have between a 40 to 50% conversion into being a paid customer on the back end of a trial. We've been driving traffic from ads just straight to our homepage, and that one's not converting. So I was playing around with MIFGE and like all these things, like, oh, we got to like put together some like really big compelling offer and all these things. And then I was talking to Glenn here earlier. If anybody knows Mind Movies, Glenn Letwell. So we were speaking earlier, and he was the one that I referred to before. And he was like, dude, like maybe your offer converts just as it is. I would just try just the free trial, like 14-day free trial. Just stick with what you have as the offer and figure out the landing page and that, like, just like the layout, the design, the copy, the headline, and then maybe we can play around with the offer. But let's just try to stick with the offer that you have and test that. Do some split testing, see if we can dial in something there that actually converts. And then once we got something that is converting there, and people are still converting to paying customers at the back end of that, now we can start to say, all right, what if we did, what if we extended the trial from 14 days to 30 days? What if we did a dollar trial? What if we said, like, do 3 months for $99 or 3 months for $199? Or what if we threw in all these bonuses? Like, but now we have a baseline of something that's kind of tested. Like, now let's try to improve the offer. And there's tons of things you can do there, and you can keep on trying, but basically just like keep that spigot of traffic on while we quickly try a bunch of different things, run a bunch of experiments to see what people resonate with and where we get people to click the button and actually start a trial. And that just kind of simplified it a lot for me versus like, oh, let's make a MIFGE. All right, great. What should it be? What should be the promise be? What should be, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's kind of backwards instead of just being like, okay, let's just stick with what we have and let's just get that converting and then optimize everything, everything about it to get that converting. And then we can start playing with offers. And I think that's, for a lot of people, that's really the first step, is like, all right, what's the offer? Getting an offer that converts consistently. Once you have that, then you can always keep optimizing, but then you can scale. Then you can really make it work. Like Pompa program we had on in Academy, right, a couple of weeks ago, and they're coming on again in a couple of weeks. Daniel's coming on and talking about more of the marketing business side. They dialed in their offer, and then they scaled that fucker to $1 million a week, right? It's just like, once you have that converting offer, they haven't changed that offer from the get-go. Like, once you have that will take you to, 8 figures in this case, like multi 8 figures. Yeah. Then it's just like optimizing the details of it, but it's the core basic thing. And it's so funny because, like, with us here at Simplero, we've been at it for quite a while and bootstrap, but we've never really dialed in our offer. It's just kind of like, well, here's the offer. I guess we have the offer, but in terms of an offer, in terms of like traffic from this source converts at this rate, and this is the earnings per click. So we can go out to affiliates and say, hey, we will pay you, $2 per click, $3 per click if you'll send traffic to us. And it's, or even just like we're going to pay you $400 per customer. And you should expect it to convert at X% per click, so that you, again, back it out to an earnings per click. But that, once your offer to that level, then game's on. So there's really those two phases, is like dialing in your offer. And that's the easiest thing to do there, is just paid traffic, because you can quickly test and iterate. And then, once you have that offer dialed in, now we can really scale it.
Would you say there's a difference? This is amazing. Would you say there's a difference between subscriber businesses versus non-subscriber subscription businesses, or is it universal?
I mean, this is universal. So subscription is just another type of offer. But yeah, I mean, there are obviously differences in what the offer is and like some of the things that you need to do on the back end of that. Like on a subscription offer, we have like churn is an issue, is really important, right? Like, because if we're making $70 from someone who's starting out, then but then we don't make anything else, then it like that's not going to be really a sustainable business. Versus if you have a $5,000 offer, you get that money up front, you don't need to worry about churn. So there's all those kinds of considerations, but at a high level, it's the same stuff, like getting the offer to convert, knowing your numbers, and then scale it. All right, I think we're about time. So it was fun to see you all again. I'm glad that you came again, Anne. We were a little worried there at the beginning. I'm like, where's Anne? What's going on? Like did the sun get up, right? Like what's going on with the world? We love you. We love having you as part of Academy. It's amazing. Academy is really like, it's for me personally, I love that forum. I love that we get to work with people like you, Anne, and others, and see you just grow and evolve and support you. And like, I really enjoy it so much. So we have lots more planned for that whole thing. It's also, kind of allowing us to build something up and iterate in real time and, model for all of you guys how kind of to play that. Cause like, we didn't know everything about what it was going to look like at the start. And I don't think anybody really does. Right. So you just, you put something out there and you start building it up, and then you keep iterating and improving on it week by week. And so that's the plan. We plan to continue doing that for a very long time. So we're going to bring on more guests. Last week we had Jim on as a guest talking about AI and ChatGPT. Was that cool or what? Yeah, it was really cool. I took a lot from it. Actually, I've been a little slow to really figure out how to get value from ChatGPT and all that stuff, but that unlocked something for me. And I've started just integrating into my work life, my day-to-day work now, and it's really helped me with some really cool stuff. So I love that. And we've already built in sort of at an infrastructure level the OpenAI API, so we can do ChatGPT stuff in Simplero. And we haven't built any kind of user-facing features yet, but we're definitely playing around with that. This is one of the things I want to do, is hire one engineer, really sharp engineer, basically like, you do AI shit, right? And then another like do community stuff, and another do page builder stuff, and like kind of have people focus on certain core areas. We did do the just give our transcript a major bump. So when you upload videos to your courses, you can have them transcribed automatically, and then we'll generate a summary with timestamps that will show alongside your video, and people can click those timestamps and immediately jump to those points in the video. And it also shows a full transcript that you can see and follow along while the video is playing. And you can also scroll the timestamp and then click on something that you want to see, and then it'll jump to that spot in the video. It'll also show up in the search results. So when you're searching for something, you search in phrases in the transcript, and then you click it, it'll open up to that exact spot in the video. So some powerful stuff there that's going to make that like really a lot easier to consume. And especially if you're doing calls, group calls, which we recommend in Simplero Academy, right? Then you just upload those calls, and it's automatically going to have a transcript and the summary, and it's going to be super easy for your people to navigate, and you don't need to do anything to make that happen other than click a button that says, I want a transcript of this one. So yeah, that's pretty cool. So definitely building in a lot more of the AI stuff. So one of my goals, I have lots of ideas, but one of them is like that you can just like get it to outline a course for you and just click a button, and it creates all the modules for you right there. Write emails, right? Build landing pages, right? Create lead magnets. There's so many things that we could do. Super fun. All right, everybody, I got to bounce to the next meeting. I'll see you guys next week. And And then in 2 weeks, we're going to have Alex Catoni of the Copy Posse on as a guest. So that should be super fun. Looking forward to that. All right. See ya. Bye-bye.